the best of Money Matters. Market View on Money FM 89.3.
That's right, you're listening to Money FM 89.3. Time now for Market View with me, Chua Tian Tian, where we take a look at how the Singapore stock market closed for the day, the biggest movers, sectors and companies to watch. But as always, a quick recap of how we started. Well, Singapore shares began trading in the green today as overseas markets ended mixed. So in early trade, the Straits Times Index was up 0.1% at 3,826 points after some 32.6 million securities changed hands in the broader market. Now, let's take you through the closing numbers. We do see the STI closing further in the green, up 0.17% at the close at 3,828 points. In terms of value turnover, that's 988 million Sing dollars. Now, gainers trailed losers, though, 223 versus 320. Let's take you through the top advances for the day. We've got here DBS, UOB and SGX. And top decliners, we've got here GMHUSD, Jardine Cycle and Carriage and Asus. Now, in terms of companies to watch for the day, we do have for you the Straits Trading Company, after the investment firm launched the second series of its 3-month commercial paper in digital securities on Singapore's Digital Assets Exchange. Now, elsewhere, from Tencent Singapore Depository Receipts falling nearly 7% this morning to what we should know about the keynote speech made by Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang at the CES 2025 yesterday. We've got more corporate and international headlines in focus. Now, for more market moves and views, I've got with me Dan Chang, investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Dan, welcome back and Happy New Year.
Hey, hi, Tian Tian. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you too. And let's start with the Singapore stock market as usual. Dan, how did the STI fare today, and any surprises when it comes down to the companies to watch, especially when we talked about the Straits Trading Company earlier?
Well, actually, the last 2 days has been very quiet on the Singapore market, probably due to cautiousness ahead of Trump's inauguration as the U.S. president on the 20th of January. Okay, but a quiet market doesn't mean that it's not good, lah. Okay, so the consolation is that SDI still managed to squeeze out gain yesterday and today. So as you mentioned earlier, we are now at 3,838 points. So we are up about 20 over points in the last 2 days. And in such a quiet market, right, sometimes it's very difficult to single out big movers in the market, but a few names did pop up on the top volume chart today. Okay, so one of them is Citrum, which has built on the momentum since last week to trend higher to close at day high of $2.35 today, which is also the 11-month high. And it was up another 2.27% today. Okay, another one is AEM, which has been trending up quietly since Christmas. During Christmas period, it was around like $1.38. Today, it closed at the day high of $1.31. And for the day gains, right, it was up another 5.5%. As for the Straits Trading Company, while it did make the news on this launching of their 3-month commercial paper in digital securities, right, it didn't really have a big impact on the share price. So it was quite flattish almost the whole day, and by close, right, it was only up about 1 cent. And there wasn't much trading volume as well, probably because this stock is not on the radar of most retail investors, I would think.
You talked about AEM Holdings as well, quietly on the rise since Christmas. How far is that positive performance also boosted by what we saw out of Foxconn?
Well, I think there might be some link there, but I can't be certain on that as well because it wasn't really officially announced.
Okay.
So we wouldn't want to comment on rumors as well, but apparently there are some links there.
Okay. Now, in more corporate news, then we must talk about Tencent because the U.S. Department of Defense included Tencent on a list of companies with alleged links to the Chinese military. So if we look at Tencent Singapore listed shares, or the so-called Singapore Depository Receipts, SDRs, that fell nearly 7% this morning. If we look at U.S. and Hong Kong listed shares of Tencent, they also tumbled in tandem. Just to bring out some numbers, US ADR shares of Tencent down nearly 8% overnight. Hong Kong listed shares were down 6.8% by the end of morning trade. Question for you, Dan. How much of a dampener is the news for Tencent, and for how long will that downbeat mood surrounding its stocks continue?
Yes, this is probably one of the two big news of the day today. Although Tencent have came out, with a statement saying that its inclusion of the list was clearly a mistake, this classification as a Chinese military company by the U.S. Department of Defense is going to be a very significant headwind for Tencent, raising concern about potential restriction and investment outflows. Hong Kong listed Tencent, which is the one that you just mentioned, dropped 7% today. And as you mentioned, right, now local investors also can gain exposure to Tencent via the Singapore Depository Receipts, the SDR. And for today, right, in fact, we have seen one of the largest daily traded volume for this Tencent SDR since its inception on the 30th of October. And with more than 293,000 shares changing hands. As this Tencent SDR is meant to track the Hong Kong listed counter, it too saw a drop of close to 7%. As to how much a dampen it would be, right, I think the the downbeat mood will linger for quite a while as institutional and retail investors, need some time to digest the news and to really ponder and or maybe even act on their net course of action. Frankly, in my own opinion, right, any near-term rebound would likely to be short-lived. But that's only my own opinion.
Okay. Now, Dan, we talked about Tencent, and included in that list is not just Tencent, but also battery manufacturer CATL. How would you read into that development, and what's the damage done to CATL then?
Well, actually, I'm glad that you bring up this CATL. Most listeners here may not be familiar with CATL as a stock because it's traded in Shenzhen Stock Exchange and retail investors have limited access to it. But it is actually the world's largest EV battery maker who count companies like, Tesla, BMW, Toyota, Honda, and familiar Chinese EV makers like NIO, Xiaopeng, and Li Auto as their customers. So actually, it is by no means a small player in the whole EV market. And this CATL's inclusion alongside Tencent, right, amplifies the uncertainty for Chinese companies with global ambition. Being the world's largest EV battery maker, CATL face risk of reduced partnership with some of the US-based firms that they are already working with and possible disruption in their supply chain as well. Okay, but we do need to note that, as I mentioned earlier, right, its customer base is very diversified geographically. So, their customer include the European car maker, the Japanese car maker, and of course the Chinese EV makers. So the impact on the share price, while there is, it may not be as bad as, say, Tencent. So as of last check, right, I think it's down about 2.8% today.
Okay. And since, we're on the topic of the U.S., then let's talk about U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Markets around the world still mulling this because U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, he denied the report that said that his tariff plans will not be as broad as originally feared. He has refuted that in a Truth Social post, I believe. How would you read into that, and what are the ramifications on U.S. equities at least?
Well, that was the other big news on the market last night over in the US. So just for context, right, Washington Post report claimed that Donald Trump's tariff plan may not be as broad or aggressive as previously feared, which of course, as you mentioned, Trump have come out to deny. Frankly, we have been through 4 years of Trump administration from 2016 to 2020, and we know that he tend to be very quick in changing his stance. He can be very frequent-minded at times. So, the stock market move on expectation and anticipation. Thus, I would like to think that regardless if the tariff plan is going to pan out as what the Washington Post has claimed, I think the market seems to be buying into it. At least that's what we saw on the US market last night. Okay, and at least for the near term, I think market would be receiving that news on a positive note, since everything is on expectations. The stock market move for expectations.
Okay. Now, if you're just tuning in, we're in conversation with Dan Chang, investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Now, Dan, do you like leather jackets?
Leather jackets, of course.
We must put on our leather jackets and, talk about this person called Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia. Now, his keynote speech at the CES 2025 conference yesterday was the spotlight for a lot of tech lovers. Now, the speech surrounded AI to better train robots, as well as new gaming chips, as well as a partnership with Toyota Motors. Now, more notably, when we look at Nvidia's counter movements, it closed at a record high. We're looking at $149 USD and 43 cents yesterday. Valuation at 3.66 trillion US dollars. Question for you, Dan. What are the levels to watch for Nvidia, given what Jensen Huang has laid out for the future?
Yep. Okay, before I go into that, right, I do have to mention that Jensen's one leather jacket did leave a very an impression of me. In fact, I have a similar, a black jacket with the Korean kind of collar with me in my closet as well. Okay. Yeah, so yes, Jensen Huang keynotes did give us a clear glimpse into Nvidia's ambitious outlook and vision for the future. I mean, considering that the company has such a stellar track record, this goal seems not only possible but highly achievable. And when the stock is at this, at this record higher, it is naturally challenging to set precise targets, especially after a gap up in price, which is what we saw last night. Okay, I mean, I'm not sure if it will happen, but I think a near-term pullback remains a possibility. However, if we look further down the road, right, given Nvidia's track record and things like such, the outlook still appear bright. And looking back at Nvidia's historical performance and momentum, I think a medium-term target of $180 is quite realistic and well within reach.
Okay. And since we're talking about Jensen Huang, right, we must talk about the first cousin once removed, Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD. Lots of developments out of the CES 2025 at AMD. AMD said Dell has decided to use its chips in PCs sold to businesses, corporate PCs, for the first time. We also saw how Alphabet's consumer team will add Gemini AI to TV sets running in its Google TV operating system. We also saw that talk about AI fridges, AI washers by Samsung. What stood out to you this time around?
Well, indeed, I think the CES 2025, I think on the 6th of January, US time, showcase a wave of these AI-driven innovations, and it highlights how deeply AI is being integrated into our everyday life. And I think the response on the stock market, we have all seen last night. Most of the tech counter are up. Okay, and personally, right, I think what really stood out most for me was that we are seeing a very clear shift towards AI being a central pillar across industries. Okay, it's not just it's not just cloud computing or the tech sector alone. It's across all industry, from consumer electronics to enterprise solutions. So it's no longer just about cutting edge technology, but practical, scalable application. They are set to redefine, our work and home environment that really impact our daily life.
I suppose lots to watch indeed. Can you imagine AI washers and fridges in future? Then we don't have to check our fridge every now and then. I think that's already somewhat in place, right? Depending on how much you pay for that fridge. Thanks a lot.
The price will always be a concern.
Yeah, hopefully the price is right. Thanks a lot for the insights. Then, as always, that was Dan Chang, investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tian Tian.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance.